Indonesia's seen attacks by Islamic militants before, but a coordinated assault by a team of suicide bombers and gunmen is unprecedented and reminds people of the sieges seen in Mumbai 7 years ago and in Paris last November. The world's largest Muslim state is now receiving considerable attention as a potential beachhead for regional ISIL extremism. Scores of Indonesians are believed to have travelled to Syria to wage jihad with various Sunni militias, and several Indonesian Islamist entities have openly campaigned for ISIL. But many other countries in Southeast Asia face the same threat of ISIL-inspired attacks. In September, Malaysian police thwarted a plot to detonate bombs in Kuala Lumpur's vibrant tourist area of Bukit Bintang. Other recent plots frustrated by Malaysian security forces included plans to raid army camps and seize weapons. During the past few weeks in the southern Philippines, 4 Islamic terrorist groups have joined forces to become an outpost for ISIL. Among those groups, the notorious Abu Sayyaf, which is believed to be the mastermind behind numerous attacks across Southeast Asia over the past decade. ISIL's strength is not only the power to inspire sympathisers, but also the ability to capitalise on attacks committed by others, with no direct links to the group. The Erawan shrine bombing in the Thai capital Bangkok, which killed 20 people last August, is believed to be the work of separatist groups. But the way it was executed reminds investigators of the same methods and tactics often used by Islamist terrorists. Since ISIL launched its world war, the group has striven to show it can strike anywhere in the world. The most recent attacks seem to prove that.
For more on the attacks in Indonesia, we're joined by analyst Omar Hamid, who's head of Asia-Pacific Country Risk at IHS. Mr. Hamid, why would Islamic State or its allies attack Indonesia?
Well, Indonesia has always been one of the countries where there's been considerable friction and tension with regard to Islamist militancy. Now, Indonesia has in the past been very successful in handling this, and especially we saw in the years from 2002 to 2009 where there was a spike in terror attacks in Indonesia, and then the government was able to deal with that in a very effective manner, which led to a decline in the years subsequent to 2009. But nevertheless, the basic components of Islamist insurgency or of militancy still remain in the country, and also we've seen an increasing number of Indonesian citizens go and take part in the war in Iraq and Syria on behalf of the Islamic State. And as you will see some of these people coming back to Indonesia, you'll find that they bring back a higher degree of capability.
Is this an alliance of convenience between the local group and the Islamic State? Do they share the greater goals of Islamic State, or do they have their own agenda?
Fundamentally, in a country like Indonesia, the primary driving factor will always remain the local context. Of course, local groups will find complementarity with transnational groups like the Islamic State, or for instance, like Al-Qaeda as well. And so there will always be a degree of commonality, but the basic agenda will be one that's driven by sort of local imperatives.
Is there a threat to the wider region? Is there a risk that Islamic State could spread activities elsewhere in the region?
The risk is not so much the Islamic State coming in itself and sort of establishing a foothold in Southeast Asia. The primary risk is that in a number of Southeast Asian countries, including, as I said, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines as well, you have people who have gone over to fight with Islamic State volunteers in Iraq and Syria. And as these jihadists return to their homelands, and that's not necessarily happening immediately, but that may happen in the sort of medium-term outlook over the next 5 years or so, you will find that the capabilities they bring will be of a much higher level than those of existing militants in those countries. And so they'll almost act as a force multiplier. And in fact, if you want to look at a historical parallel, it's very similar to what happened following the end of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in the late 80s and early 90s, where again, a lot of people who had fought in Afghanistan returned to countries like the Philippines and Indonesia and brought a higher skill set, which subsequently led in the 90s and early 2000s to the start of very active terrorist insurgencies in these countries.
Omar Hamid, thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.